some others that are here, when you're in the kitchen, you start putting all these things together. You know, you put this ingredient. You know, you take some meat, you take some vegetables. Sometimes you put some stuff in there I would never think of eating. Amen. I don't know exactly what's in there. I don't know what's in that pot. I don't know what, but I can tell you that when it came out, it was something that was so delicious. I mean, I can tell you right now, there are some things that, there are some things you put in stews and you put in food that if you ate it by itself, you would gag.
Right. Yes.
But suddenly you mix all this stuff together, amen? Look around the house of God this morning and look at this. Don't be gagging.
No.
Because I'm telling you right now, God has put us together for a reason, for this synergy. So that, listen, that none of us can work it all out. But all of us together, amen? See, that's what Paul means when he says that it causes all things to work together. Many of the things that make no sense when seen in isolation are in fact working together to produce something good in our lives. Amen? I mean, there's a divine synergy in the darkest moments of our days. There is a synergy that produces something positive, and the good that is ultimately produced could not happen any other way. I guess I could. Let me give you another analogy. Some of you will understand this. Over probably the last decade or so, there's been some automotive plants that were built. Down in Indiana, there's a big Honda facility. Down in Tupelo, Mississippi, there's a big Toyota plant. And over, obviously in Detroit, there are plants over there. So it doesn't really matter where they are. But if you had a bird's eye view from any of these facilities that manufacture, that assemble cars, if you had a view from an airplane, right over the plant, you would see that many of these facilities are vast facilities that are just hundreds of acres long. Day and night, you would see trucks bringing materials in. Trucks are coming in over here, and cars and trucks are going out at the other end. Think about that just for a moment. These trucks are bringing in raw materials and these components of an automobile, the engine parts, the wheels, the chassis, the frame, the outer body, the windshields, instrument panels. I have a whole list here. And all that goes into the plant, but what comes out the other end? Aren't you glad that your car has wheels? Amen? Now suppose that you decided to watch the process from the road. You could see the trucks arriving with components and parts, and you would see that a new car rolls out the door. But what happens in between? You can't see that from outside, can you? You can hear the noise inside. You can't see the process. But you know this much. That new car, that new truck, that vehicle, it didn't happen by chance. Inside that building, there are hundreds of hands and intelligent minds that are working together. Say together.
Together.
And they're taking these raw materials and they're taking these components and they're fitting these things just together just right. And when it comes out, they have fashioned a car or a truck. What by itself seems to have no purpose, and all these pieces that go in there, but when it comes out, it's something worth paying for. Amen?
Amen.
Paul is saying that our experience is kind of like that. Life's experiences kind of go together like this. God begins with raw materials in our life, including some parts that seem to serve no good purpose. These materials that God put, that it comes into our life, they're acted upon by pressure. Yeah, I know James and Mike can understand this more than some others, and probably Brother Cletus, you have some understanding of what I'm about to say. They put this pressure, they put this amount, just the right amount of heat, and they're bent and they're shapen and they're joined together, and over time something beautiful is created.
Amen.
And it's not by accident, but by divine design. Oh, by the way, nothing is wasted in the process. That is how we need to look at life. We must not judge the end by the beginning, but rather the beginning by the end. And maybe that leads us to the next point. Then what we need to do is we need to define the word good. Right? And isn't this the crux of the matter? Right? And that's the question. Well, so what's good? What is good? Paul says that all things work together for what?
For the good.
But what is the good that he's talking about? For most of us, we have a definition kind of like these that I've got listed here. Health, happiness, solid relationships, long life, money, food on the table, meaningful work. How about a nice place to live? Those are good, aren't they? That's how we equate good. In general, we think that good life means a better set of circumstances. Once again, that's not necessarily a biblical point of view, is it? In this case, we don't have to wonder what Paul means. He defines it for us. Let's finish it out. Listen to this. It's right here in the text. For those God foreknew, he also predestined. In verse 29, he also predestined them to be conformed to the likeness of his Son. Now, that's a whole other verse that we don't have time to really spend on, because some of us want to take that a little too far as well. But here's the thing. It does kind of clarify verse 28. It makes it pretty clear. God has predestined you and me. Are you hearing what I'm telling you? He's predestined you and me to a certain end. What's Jeremiah 29:11 says? I know the thoughts, I know the plans I have for you. He has an expected what? End. And that end, that certain end is good. Romans 8:28 says it's good. It is that we might be conformed, to the likeness of his Son.
Yes.
We know it not by looking at the events of life, but we know and we learn it by knowing God. We know it not by studying a pattern in the cloth, but we know it by knowing the designer of the fabric. And you might know a melody, you might know a song, but you really don't know the music by just listening to the notes. But you have a better sense of it when you know the composer, the one who wrote the music, and you know the story behind it. There are many things we don't know. We don't know why babies die. We don't know why cars get wrecked. We don't know why planes crash. We don't know why families break up. We don't know why good people get sick and suddenly die. But this we do know, that God is at work and he has not forgotten us. So can we still believe in Romans 8:28? Yes, we can. But we must properly define what good means. And then we'll notice also the last phrase of Romans 8:28. Because you're going to find out that there's a limitation to the verse. We need to understand that limitation of the verse. You can't just apply it onto every situation. He says, it is a promise to those who what? Are you there? Those who love God, who've been called according to his purpose. I want you to hear this. This is a very important limitation here. Limitation, stipulation. I mean, this is a thing you need to understand. This verse is true for Christians. And it's only true of Christians. Think of what I'm telling you right now. It's not a blanket promise for the whole human race. Why? Because God's purpose is to make us his children so that one day we look like his Son. And in order for you to do that, you have to be what? Just anybody? Any Tom, Dick, and Harry or Mary? No. Christian. This promise are for Christians. So we may truly say that Romans 8:28 is an evangelistic verse. It should encourage somebody to believe in God and his Son and the sacrifice that was paid in salvation, and the redemption, and a restoration, and having a new